Welcome back. We're back. Two fans, one Paul. Salt David Quist, lovely coach KB Kirk Brown. Another coach gets fired. A couple more upsets this weekend. It's just another week of college football. Our coach is still hanging out. It might be through the end of the season, KB. I'm not too sure what's going to happen. Good fight by the boys. We'll talk about that later. Throw it to you out in Arizona, soon to be Michigan in a couple days, and we will go through Week 10.
Yeah, officially with the fallback everyone else did, I'm officially 2 hours behind East Coast time, so that makes it a little easier to record. I get to go home and eat and go through my normal process instead of just immediately hopping on to record. But yeah, it was a really good weekend, really fun weekend of football. I went out last night with the wife. We had a pretty good time. We met a group of people out there, had a good time, and watched the World Series game, which was really fantastic.
Fuck
Winning
the
the
Dodgers.
extras sucks. The Dodgers won. A lot of opportunities there for the Blue Jays to win, and they just simply couldn't do it. The Lions lost today, which sucked, but the Packers also lost. So, didn't really lose ground to anyone, but the NFC North has really tightened up. And when you look at the standings, I think every team's above 500 at this point, or like at 500 or above. So
Bears, crazy win.
Bears, crazy win. Colson Loveland with a tremendous touchdown catch. But overall, really excited and fun. I watched a lot of these games back, the highlights and stuff, whatever I could find, and I'll continue to watch them. So
Same
we had
thing.
the first game.
First, KB, fuck YouTube TV and fuck Disney. Figure it out. For fuck's sake, ESPN tweeted out that College Game Day was going to be on Twitter for free. We're both making a lot of money here. Do the right thing, because if whoever bends the knee, probably YouTube TV, the price is going to go up in 3 months, and it's already like $85. I remember when I got PlayStation View, like whatever that came out was $50-$40. That's doubled, and I'm paying money everywhere else. So it's ridiculous. Get a grip. I know we're all united on this one, KB. I just had to say it once because it's ridiculous. And I ain't going back to Comcast Infinity Cable. No fucking way.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Quist. I think something else, too, is ESPN, which is underneath Disney, which owns everything, came out with the ESPN app. And that's what they're trying to push people towards. So that's why there's a contract dispute, because they want you to have full ESPN access. And it's just like, I get streaming, but it feels like instead of all these companies coming together and like coordinating, like, hey, what if we like did this, this, and this, and like we could all kind of take a part of the pie. It's like everyone's trying to fight for space right now. But somehow they're only fighting like an upward expenditure battle. Like no one's coming in at a lower price and offering, more or less. It's all kind of cut and paste. Hey, you'll have to not have something one way or the other.
Apple and Peacock, $15. That's a good bundle.
So
anyway,
with all that being said, excited to talk about football this weekend, Quest. First game of the weekend, I was able to watch this one. Vanderbilt at Texas. I think this was a shocker for one reason. I mean, Arch Manning looked better. Some of the stats are a little misleading because I think his first 149 passing yards, his first 144 passing yards had 149 yards after the catch or something crazy like that. Because the first play of the game was a screen for a touchdown, and then there's a few other really short passes, but scouted well, and these receivers made some plays. So Vandy ended up covering. It was 3.5 points. Vandy loses this game, though, and I thought that they're going to come out and win. I was really impressed with Texas's defensive line with how much they were able to disrupt Pavia, and Pavia still had 300 yards and also had 40 yards rushing. This puts Vanderbilt in a really interesting place because they go play Auburn, who obviously just fired Hugh Freeze. They got Kentucky and Tennessee to end their season. So very manageable last couple group of games, especially when Tennessee dropped one. So we'll see. That'd be a really cool thing, seeing Vanderbilt get to 10-2 and make the playoff. But this was a pretty back and forth game. It was tight a lot of the way. I thought Pavia played well, but there's just his one fumble to start the game. Put Texas up 10-0, and then they were able to kind of just maintain that lead the rest of the way.
Yeah, 24-3 at one point in time in the second quarter. So Vandy had some fight. I watched the highlights back because this is a game I could not watch. It was on ABC, I believe. But they made it close. A couple of weird plays towards the end. Stowers is I think that's the tight end. He's pretty solid. And they had the onside kick, KB. It was there. They were bouncing around, and then it just went out of bounds, which was a bummer because I don't even know the last time I've seen an onside kick be successful, just because it's such a difficult play. Actually, in the Bears-Bengals game, it happened, and it didn't matter because the Bears came back and scored. But it's exciting when an onside kick happens, and the ball was pinballing around, and Vandy just couldn't get to it. A couple of their touchdowns were kind of weird towards the end, but they showed a lot of fight. But an L is an L. Kind of curious to see how both teams finish the season. They're both 7-2, 3-2 for Vandy in the SEC, and then 4-1 for Texas. So Texas is probably decent in the standings for the SEC. I haven't looked in a minute, but they're probably towards the top. But yeah, I would love to see Vandy finish 10-2. KB, never thought I would say that in my lifetime. Just like when Northwestern went to the Big Ten championship game a few years back, something you don't expect to see out of these teams. But hey, they got their quarterback, they got their coach. They're pretty tough, and they battle. And Diego's a bulldog. I'm kind of curious to see where this Vandy team goes without him next year, because he's kind of their identity.
And Stowers, too, who's their next best player, too. Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah, Texas is sitting out in 5th. They're behind A&M, Bama, Georgia, Mississippi, Ole Miss, because they've played one less game than those ones that are also 5-1, and then A&M and Bama are both 5-0. They're at the top of the conference and league play. But yeah, it was a really impressive performance, and like I said, I think this is kind of what we were more anticipating. Is like, hey, Arch, and he made some good throws in this, so I'm not trying to take that away, because there was some timing patterns and stuff where like he hit dudes in stride, and it looked a little bit more clean. It felt like when he got rolling against Mississippi State a weekend ago, that maybe he found a stride in this offense, and this offense kind of found an identity. But really impressive performance. And their defensive line, Colin Simmons is the young defensive edge. He was causing havoc in there. He had 1 sack, 1.5 tackles a loss, but one of them was a fumble. He also was just chasing Pavi around for most of this game. So really impressive performance by Texas to get a big win. And they have a very manageable schedule the last couple of weeks, or they have a very difficult schedule, for the last couple of weeks. They have to go to Georgia, they host Arkansas, and then they play Texas A&M on a Friday game right before Thanksgiving. So this is the next 3 weeks of the season. Looks like they have a bye this coming week, and then they have a very difficult last 3-game stretch of the season with 2 teams in the top 5.
Yeah, interesting to see what happens down the stretch, KB. This is when November is when teams are made and when championships are earned. So we will definitely see that. And rivalry week, if I could speak. Thanksgiving week is always a fun, interesting one because we all have that Thursday, Friday off, and we'll have games rolling, especially on Thanksgiving, and then games like this one on Friday. Texas A&M, Texas will be a madhouse. Wonder if Jeff is going. Shout out Jeff. Any other thoughts on this game before we jump to the misery of being a Michigan State fan?
No, let's get into it. I want to hear your thoughts, feelings. I watched most of this game until like the last drive from Minnesota to tie it, and then overtime. I was listening to it on the radio, and they were Minnesota's radio crew, so it was very biased. You can kind of read through things when you know it's the other team's crew. So Quest, you guys played so well offensively. I mean, we got to give it up. Milivojevic. Milivojevic. I mean, he played great.
Yeah, the coordinator, there's some calls were just, if we do a short side toss ever again, I don't even want to. You do a short side toss as a questionable play on a short, I don't know if it was 4th down, but we've done it earlier in the year, and I about lost my mind. That was at home. Another call was when he tried to run in for a touchdown. He got hit pretty good. And the next play on 4th and goal, I think it was. Or it might have been 3rd. But it was a QB, power. Like, what are we doing? Like, give it to 6. Give it to Marsh. Find somebody on a drag, or give me Velling. He's a red zone specialist. But some of the play calling has been really atrocious. Like, overthinking things, or when I don't know what it is. Like, I got this great idea. We're going to run this play. And if you think running a toss short side is ever a good idea, KB, you should be fired to the fucking sun, because it's not a good idea. I asked a guy in college once, at Grand Valley, decent D2 school, and I'm like, why do people do that? He's like, he messes up with angles. And from what I can see, it doesn't mess up with angles at all, especially when your O-line is trash. Let's be honest. Our O-line sucks. And the fact that we ran for 156 yards and Tolliver went for like an 80-yard run is a miracle. Alessio, I think he got sacked at least 6, 7, 8 times. He was a dog. He got up over and over again. 20 for 28, 311, and a touchdown. I don't think he had any turnovers. really spread the ball out. I mean, Rodney Bullard, D2 transfer from Odessa State, he had a huge play for 71. Kelly had 8 catches. Marsh had 4. I know Marsh had a bunch of targets as well, and some other guys with some catches. I think the offense played well. The play calling at times, KB, has been very frustrating. There's a couple of play calls here as well. Minnesota was okay. They were shut out from the second quarter till the end of the game when they had that game-tying drive, and then in overtime. I think the main running back that we talked about was hurt. So Fami Majaboy, I don't know how to say that. Ejaboy. He was just good. He ran pretty well, 17 for 108. Drake Lindsey's not that. He didn't play anything special. The defense, dude, they were wreaking havoc on our line and getting Alessio's face.
7 sacks.
7 sacks. And they had 5 in the first half alone. And he got popped a couple other times. So he was tough as nails. And I thought he did a good job getting back and staying in the pocket, making good decisions, good reads. Our defense is what it is. Shout out to Jordan Hall, man. He's hurt and he played well in my opinion. I think he did a good job. Overtime. Well, first the drive to end the game was just not great for them to tie the game, but then in overtime, just not great play calling once again, and then we kick a field goal. And then,
we got to talk about it. Like there was a flag on the play. Pass interference. And then 3 minutes go by and they're like, hey, actually, JK, LOL, not pass interference.
Did you see it yet or no?
No,
okay, so it was kind of a flag with Bullard and the guy grabbed his undershirt and you could see the shirt. So you could see the guy holding his shirt and that was the PI they called and then they picked it up. One ref said, the way Smith said it in the press conference, was that one ref was a little bit more passionate about it or something like that, so they picked it up. And that's all he said. Nope. If I was him, I'd probably slam my fucking headset. Rossi was, once again, on the sideline getting into it.
Hot.
So, that was a PI that was picked up. It probably, it's a little ticky-tacky, but if you're pulling a shirt like that and you can see it, I would say that's pass interference. I can't remember the play call to that, but there's another call that wasn't so great. Then we kicked the field goal. Our field goal kicker struggled. He missed 2 or 3. I think he missed 2. Not too great.
One really, really close. The one that he short-armed to Marsh, where Marsh would have had a walk-on touchdown, ended up being 0 points.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of things. You guys also had 10 penalties for 98. Yeah. Alessio had negative 53 rushing yards, including with all the sacks. So, you guys ran for over 200 with just your primary guys, but he was so many negative plays, and it just feels like, and this is what the Minnesota guys were saying, is look, MSU's trying to give this game away. They're making so many mistakes. And I just feel to wrap up on what the thoughts of an outside person on Jonathan Smith, I just feel like that's been your guys' team the last 2 years. I thought when Smith came there, maybe you wouldn't have the skill players, maybe you wouldn't have the, high-end talent to win a bunch of big games, but I thought that you were going to get a consistent, high-level, detailed team that didn't make mistakes and didn't beat themselves, and I just haven't seen that, especially in games where you and Minnesota, for better or for worse, are around the same right now of athletes and depth and stuff like that. I would say that you guys both have some pretty good players, but maybe I would even lean that you guys have some better players than they do, especially with Marsh, and you guys can't find a way to win games like this.
Correct.
And that's who Smith has been in his tenure. But how many Power 4 wins do you have?
He's 200 against. I don't know what his percentage. His winning percentage against Big Ten is 200. And one other thought in overtime, they said they synced it up, KB, for the touchdown, but in my opinion, he looks short. The foot hits the pylon, is out of bounds, and the ball is tucked in his arm, and it's at a half inch short. Also, the stiff arm on Darius Snow, you gotta tackle. Nothing else to say, man.
He dribbled Darius Snow off the
ground. I mean, good stiff arm, but I feel like there's got to be a little bit better effort there. That's probably a bad take for me, but I think I saw what it might have been. Trey Wayne said something about it. The team's got no fight in him about that play specifically, which sucks. Because Darius Snow is kind of a legacy guy. His dad and his uncle played at state basketball and football, so bummer. But he looked short. But I guess they They synced it up, but the refs have not been on our side the last 2 weeks. If we're not going to win the game. We're not a good team, but the refs have not helped us one bit.
Yeah, definitely. And it feels like whenever you guys start gaining momentum, there's always a flag. And whenever the other team is, you're gaining momentum one way, there's always a flag to help balance it out. It's just one of those times where like nothing feels like you can ever get momentum. Good momentum building for your MSU team. So a disappointing loss here. Minnesota beat you by 3 in overtime. So very tough situation here, Quist. But
6 in a row.
You guys covered again.
It's good teams cover, I guess. And then we got a bye week. Honestly, a little surprised Smith's still around, but I guess the team shows fight, so I guess you keep him around to end the year. But we got a bye week, home against Penn State. Probably the last game I'll go to for this year, at Iowa, and then Maryland, neutral site at Ford Field. And I actually put my tickets up for sale because if it was, if we're 7-4 or 8-3 or 5, if we were ever close to a bowl game, I'd probably go. But it's just, unless we run off 2 wins, but it's just one of those years where it's disappointing, and I've already spent all this money on the season, and I love it, but hate to see it. We got to figure something out. We did. In other news, the board did just pass Spartan Ventures, which is a way to raise more money, so you can slap anything you want on a stadium. I don't care anymore. It could be Little Caesars, Spartan Stadium presented by Little Caesars or Rocket. A funny one I think would be Mon Arena presented by Melting Moments, because everybody loves Melting Moments. I don't think they had the money for it, but ice cream sandwiches with the cookie, they're very popular in East Lansing. But yeah, we're going to start throwing names everywhere, KB, for sponsorships, and I don't care anymore. That's going to give us more money to play with, and that's what J-Bet did at Georgia Tech.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a really good thing. And I'm just thinking about this Penn State game because Penn State has to go get their teeth kicked in most likely by Indiana next week. And so each of you will be 0-6 in the conference. Each of you will have lost 6 straight games going into it. So what a fantastic week of the game there.
For a terrible-looking trophy, too.
Yeah, not to rub your dirt in it, but I just was like, I wonder what it both looks like. Yep, 6 in a row. Penn State, right, had everything rolling for them. They still have not had a Power 4 win. At least you guys have a Power 4 win. It might be
they're like 1-6.
Yeah,
they're terrible.
But hey, it's a win. It's a win. Okay. Yeah. Anything else, Quist?
No, disappointing. I think I texted the guys like, if you don't have it, you don't have it. And the group chat was really going after the O coordinator on some plays, like. Just terrible, twice now we've gone short side toss, KB. I just can't get over it. It's something that I've said it before. We used to run short side jet sweeps with Dave Warner. That was a long time ago, and I bitched about it then, and now it's the same thing with a toss. But I cannot stand it. It's, in my opinion, you got so much more room to play with, or you could do a dive or a zone, and you're doing a fucking toss. In my opinion, with this O-line, it's a disservice to your running back.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like it's just he thinks he's smarter than everyone? Like, I'm going to get him.
I just feel like that's like every coach or coordinator. They overthink everything. They think they know. And then you got fans, of course. I don't know ball as much as them, but sometimes it's a little too obvious. Get the ball out quick with Nick Marsh and let Alessio kind of cook and maybe roll out, run a dive or a zone or a screen. Nah, fuck it. Weak side, or let's do a short side toss, guys. We got it. Like, you're just trusting your guys when sometimes you got to look in the mirror and you can't trust them because they're not that good. Golbin, I thought would be a good center, KB, and I saw like 3-4 highlights where he didn't block the right guy, he blocked nobody, or he got ran through. And as much as I thought he was a good transfer and he's a captain, they bum rushed the fuck out of him, and it didn't look good.
Gotcha. All right. The next game is Michigan-Purdue on our docket. I'm disappointed as well, Quist. Obviously 21.5 point favorites. They play a tight one at home. I want to give the shout out to the defense. Michigan was down 2 linebackers and Cole Sullivan, who's out for an extended period of time, and Jimmy Rolder this week. They moved Jay Sean Barham, who was playing edge, back to linebacker position that he'd started at. He gets injured on the first play of the game. So we're at our 5th string linebacker playing in there. Some other guys got injured, and we rotated a lot. And I really want to say that this defense played pretty damn well. Derek Moore continues to make impacts on this game. He had 2 sacks, including a forced fumble. He needs to be out there a lot. And, Michigan did enough to win and survive. That's the good. Quist, do you want to go before I get into the bad? Your thoughts on maybe the game? Again, like I said, I watched the majority of this because I was at bars. So I was watching them at the bar, and then I was following it on my phone, and then I watched all the highlights back. But give me some of your thoughts. You were texting me about the game a little bit. Let me know.
This went exactly how I thought it would go. Tighter game. Michigan's offense is really leaning on that run game once again. I feel bad for my wife. She's in my college league, and she's had Haynes in for 3 games. Not knowing I should take him out for it. He's been banged up, so that sucks. Sorry, hon. Anyway, Jordan Marshall.
And to drop info on that,
he's
getting surgery.
Oh, okay,
he's getting surgery on his foot, so he's going to be out most likely the rest of the year.
Because it must be like a game time decision, because I know a couple weeks ago he warmed up and then he didn't go. So it's a hard one to know, and college fantasy's hard anyways. But Jordan Marshall did a heck of a game, 25 carries, 185, 3 touchdowns. You ran 253 as a team. Obviously, Bryce ran a little bit. Defense, was fine, KB. They did everything they had to do. I thought Ryan Brown played fine, 19 for 24, 133 and a touchdown. Their backup, Malachi Singleton, is very athletic. He ran the ball. Malachi? Wow, I'm an idiot. Malachi. We do it live here, KB. He ran the ball 15 times. They made sure he was in the game. He's like their backup quarterback. The defense played relatively okay. I thought Michigan, once again, the passing game is sloppy for we talked about this earlier for Michigan, but you said it. We're talking earlier. Bryce was a little bit off this game. 13 for 22 for 145 and a pick, and the pick he was just trying to. He probably could have ran. I don't know if he could have got the first down. Tried to force one in there, and the guy made a good play.
There's a dude in the back of the end zone too. His eyes came down too quick because Donovan McCulley was standing wide open in the end zone because his guy left to come down and fill in the run. And like you said, we got to give Marshall a shout out. I mean, him stepping up, and Bryson Cudsdale, he's a Forest Hills Northern kid as well. He got 2 carries on the final drive of the game that were really important. What?
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, so I believe him and
I watched them play.
Chambliss played together. But yeah, Cudsdale, he had 2 drives because Marshall was cramping up in this game actually, so he had to get taken out the last drive, and then he still made some really good plays, some really good carries. But yeah, the thing with Underwood is he seemed a little just off. And there were a few moments in the game. There was a deep ball that he threw to Donovan McCulley. I thought McCulley should have caught it. It was in the end zone, and he just kind of led himself upfield instead of angling a little bit better. It was a really, really beautiful ball just off his fingertips. He didn't really dive. It's kind of like he lunged for it, but he's working the wrong way up the field. There was one with Marlon Klein where Klein didn't see the ball at all. He short-armed it a little bit because he had to move in the pocket because there was a safety or a corner blitz coming off the edge, and he just short-armed it a little bit. And those things, right? If he completes either of those, he's around 200 yards and a touchdown in this game. He also had a fumble while going into the 2-yard line. It was a really nice play. The dude punched it out from behind. They got him on a little QB power. So, 2 turnovers in the red zone in this game. You're thinking at least 2 touchdowns that came off the board as a result of that. And then some just other misses. Underwood has been so good on the run all year, and he missed some throws on the run. And sometimes you're just off. Mm-hmm. This is the most intense football he's played, probably the most he's been hit ever, right? Michigan football isn't the highest barometer of competition in the world.
He would sit a lot of the games, too, because they beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, and he'd sit. So the bye couldn't come at a better time. I also saw a stat, 55% of offensive snaps were played by a redshirt freshman or a true freshman in this game against Purdue. So it's a really, really young unit, right? And if things are slightly off, Marlon Klein also left this game with an injury. And I believe one of our, Jake Guanera, also left. So we were patchworking guys left and right and just being able to fight. And then the last drive of the game, I think, is maybe the highlight of the offense. When you need it, Purdue could not stop you in the running game. You got first down after first down with 6 minutes left. You took over the ball in a 5-point game, and you ran out the clock. With literally you ran 11 plays for 63 yards in 6 minutes, and you ended the game. That's really, really impressive. It was a close game, like you said, but Purdue after you score that 21 to go up 21-10, they didn't get the ball back to have a chance to score. Your team and your defense played especially well, and I want to give a shout out to a guy we've talked a bit about on this podcast, Jaden Mangum. He made a terrific stop on third down to set up Purdue on a fourth down with Malachi Singleton, and then we ended up getting the fourth down stop. And that was a Michigan State transfer. He got a lot of crap after redshirting last year that he was fake injury. He can't play at Michigan. He hates blah, 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 blah. I saw it all online from State fans. And he played really well in this game with all the injuries that had been piling up. So not the best game. I think that in the same way we talked about Quist, where like Jonathan Smith's teams aren't well put together, well planned. They come out and they just make mistakes that lose games. That's what Sharon does, but just with a better team that can overcome, I feel like, how the coaches are preparing, how the coaches are setting up, because these were games with, I know it's a young team, but these were games for a long time that Michigan would come in and it'd be 28-0 after the first, and you could just take a vacation and you didn't really care.
Yeah.
So we had a feeling, and that's what I wanted us to see. And we're just not quite there yet on offense. There's still just, we're a little bit out of sync. The bye week, hopefully we can get healthy. And we got a tough 3-game stretch with Northwestern, who has a pretty good defense, Maryland, who gave Indiana a fight for one half. Obviously, in the second half, things got out of hand there. And then, obviously, Ohio State, who has the best defense in the country. So we'll see how all this goes. But
he's good.
And Sayin, I think they're actually limiting Sayin by not throwing him more. Like, he should be throwing the ball like 40 times a game. They're trying to establish the run, and their running game sucks.
They don't have a running back. Yeah. Going from a two-headed monster to kind of can't find the guy.
How nice would it be if they had a Mr. Ohio Columbus native running back, or Cincinnati native running back? Wouldn't that be nice?
Which one's that for you guys?
He's Marshall. That's Marshall.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's Mr. Ohio. Yeah. He's the last Mr. Ohio that committed to Michigan was Desmond Howard.
Fun fact.
So,
didn't know that.
Fun fact.
Anything else about your Wolverines? No, I think Strone Moore is.
Oh, yeah.
I think Strone Moore's a pussy.
Teams.
I've said that before. So
we had a 29-yard punt. We had a blocked punt in this game. So special teams is just a fucking disaster. We blamed our punter last year, and our punter transferred to Florida, and he's like booming the fuck out of the ball down in Florida. So I don't know our special teams coordinator, but he needs to like reevaluate his life's priorities, because like I've never seen a guy try to jump over like the 3-man protection in front and get close to the ball. And he got close. You know what I'm saying? Like usually like the punter's way too fucking close. Yeah. Maybe he has a noodle leg, maybe the protectors, but there's something with that distancing, and like that's coaching, because they tell you where the fuck to line up. And so that's the only thing that I'm like still fucking peeved about, that I don't have any hope getting better, because they've had bad play on all aspects of the game. And Samaj Morgan, he was limited in snaps. He only played 10 offensive snaps, but he's still our punt returner, and he just refuses to catch punts, and we're just giving him 20 free yards. I don't know what, and that's like, again, he's getting taught to do that, right? It's not like he's going out there and just making these decisions himself, because he'd get pulled. So
that's fair catch.
I don't know, but those are the little things where like games like this, that's how you lose, right? That's how you lose to Northwestern. That's how you lose to Maryland, is by doing stupid shit like that. And that's where I'm nervous about, because like the team should be more locked in.
A windy game at Wrigley could be weird.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see, but a bye week couldn't come soon enough. This team has a lot to clean up, but you're still winning, right? You guys have a lot to clean up, and you can't fucking beat anyone. So it's way easier to be in my position.
Yeah. Thanks, Jimmy. Feel that. Let's jump to the last game, and then we can go around the country. But Utah dominates Cincinnati 45-14. They really leaned on him, KB. I was watching the highlights, and it felt kind of close, and then Utah really just pulled away. That defense is really good. Sorsby was 11 for 33, 221, touchdown and a pick. Dan Peter, 16 for 31, 213, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. He also ran for 78. Washawn Parker for Utah had a big game, 17 carries, 104 and a touchdown. And Ryan Davis for Utah also had 132 yards and a touchdown through the air. The Utah defense was running around. Their helmets, their uniforms were great at a night game at home out in Salt Lake City. Cincinnati had some fight, but just not enough. And this is a game It seems like when Utah's kind of firing on all cylinders, KB, they wagon teams. When the Empier's been a little banged up, they don't quite got it. When they make mistakes like they did against BYU in a game they probably should have won, BYU comes out because they play the cleaner game. When Utah plays that clean game in Winningham, he's been there forever, KB. He has that way to win. Tough defense, offense figures it out. And gets the ball around, and they beat the shit out of a decent Cincinnati team. I think it's cool to see Cincinnati 7-2, 5-1 now in the Big 12. A couple years removed from being in the playoff, where they had Fickle still, and you kind of knew they weren't quite there yet when it comes to the players and the talent. But they're slowly inching their way there in the Big 12 once again, 2 years in a row after the becoming the Power Four. I think the Big 12 might be the funnest conference. Overall, top to bottom, even though Colorado kind of sucks this year. Sam Levitt's out for Arizona State, so some things aren't working great for the Big 12, but it's still a fun conference from top to bottom, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we kind of knew that Sorsby wasn't that guy, and some of his stats were a little bit inflated. At least I had that opinion coming into it. And he wasn't bad in this game, but 11 completions, 33. I mean, that's not really what you're looking for. That's not the consistency to move and score points. If they had over 400 yards of offense, but only put up 14 points. And the reason why is because if you're that inefficient throwing the ball, just bad things can happen.
Time of possession.
And, time of possession is a huge thing. They missed the field goal. They had multiple turnovers as well. There was a fumble that got turned over, and the game just got away from them. They went 3-and-out in their first series. They missed the field goal. They had a fumble, and they went 3-and-out again, and they had an interception. And that's how a game gets away from you. It's 24-7 at half, and it's basically over at that point with just some inefficient offense. Really impressive performance by Utah. I agree with what you said, Quist, that this is one of the more fun conferences, and I think it's just because there's been some wildness that's happened, but the lack of depth sometimes where injuries are even more impactful can create some craziness. Like ASU with their backup QB just went and beat Iowa State on the road, which was like really, really impressive. And I'm going to look at the conference right now. So BYU's up at the top. Texas Tech is in second, tied with Cincinnati, Houston, and then Utah. We'll see.
Houston
how
and
this
Cincinnati
plays out.
is fun, in my opinion. And Houston just lost too, right?
Houston just
West
lost
Virginia.
to SMU.
West Virginia.
West Virginia, sorry. Yeah, West Virginia. Which I was in my things to talk about yet. But it was a fun game. I watched some of the highlights, and it was a really impressive performance by Utah. Now, to get to some of the upsets and the coaches, SMU upsets Miami, where Carson Beck throws another interception, where the game's on the line.
Did you see what he said in the presser again?
Yeah,
He said he
let you handle that quiz.
It's unbelievable. This guy's got no back. He just blames everybody else. First, it's his tight end, and then now he said they were just. I think that he was just saying like they were playing the same thing over and over on defense, and now it could just execute the plays that were called. Brother, one of the pick you threw in the red zone, I don't know when that happened in the game, was terrible. I think
that was the overtime.
It was like a Texas route.
Ended it where Malachi Toney floated to the back of the end zone. It was a whip route to Malachi Toney, and then he floated up the field because the guy had undercut the route because he had inside leverage on him, and he just kind of threw it. And like he's an old player, and look, I was pretty hopeful for him, but that locker room has to be gross, nasty, toxic. Mario Cristobal, you keep blowing these games that you shouldn't be losing, and Miami's basically out of contention for the ACC, out of contention in the playoff. I was looking at his record, and I think that there was a 400-point differential between his record in September and October and his record in November and December.
Yeah.
400-point differential in winning. It might have been like closer to 450. So when these games are tough, when you have guys out, they just can't win. And it's one of those things, right, where you have 433 yards of offense and you get 20 points out of it. Right, like that's the thing of being inefficient. You're throwing picks, turnovers, and they escaped last week after a slow start, even against Stanford, but they weren't able to do it this time. But wild season all in all, and the ACC. You know who's leading the standings, right? In the ACC,
Was it Georgia Tech? They just lost, though.
Georgia Tech.
Virginia.
Just lost, which is another game to talk about. Virginia.
God.
And Virginia has a game earlier this year against who? NC State, but it wasn't considered an in-conference game.
Oh, shit.
It was the second week of the season. It wasn't considered an in-conference game. So their one loss is to NC State, who doesn't get credit for the win in conference or the loss in conference. So it's wild. Like, talking about craziness, it's wild. There's West Virginia, or Virginia's on top 5-0. Georgia Tech's 5-1 after their loss. Pitt, who had replaced their quarterback, but the true freshman, is 5-1. Louisville is 4-1. SMU's 4-1.
Crazy.
Duke is 4-1 in the conference. So a lot to be determined in the last couple weeks. And if you remember, whoever wins the conference gets in. So it's not even like a record thing. Whoever wins the conferences get automatic bids. Now, it isn't going to be the top 4 like last year, but they're going to get automatic bids because they won the conference.
Right. Yeah, Georgia Tech losing. Yeah, NC State was up most of that game. That's an interesting one. We'll see how they bounce back. Other games too, KB. Georgia survives Florida 24-20. Ole Miss 34-14. I thought that game felt closer than it actually was, but 10 in the fourth quarter by Ole Miss is big. Trying to think what else happened. Oklahoma-Tennessee was a pretty good game, 33-27. Oklahoma with the win at Tennessee. Virginia, I think they're one of their first wins in a long time out in California, so that's pretty cool. Not sure there's anything else I'm missing.
I do want to highlight in the Georgia Tech game, Haynes King had 408 yards passing, 2 touchdowns passing, and had 103 on the ground, including 2 rushing touchdowns. It's a monster 500-plus yard performance. I know a lot of us are talking about, like, hey, who's in the Heisman? What does the Heisman look like this year? I think Sain's leading the charge at this point. He looks so good, so consistent, so comfortable. But Haynes King, I hope he's invited because he is as important as a player can be for the. He does everything for them. He is the foundation of how they move the ball. He's the foundation of how they score points. And you might look at his passing yards, and he's nearing about 2,000 so far. He has 1,088, but he has 754 yards on the ground. So he's most likely going to be near that 1,000-yard mark on the ground. And he also already has 14 rushing touchdowns, which is absolutely incredible. With a couple of games left in the season.
Yeah, and then the only other game, KB, Kentucky beat Auburn like 10-3 or something. And in Auburn, like we said earlier, fired Hugh Freeze. So the coaching carousel grows. I'm not sure if anybody else will be fired in the next upcoming weeks. Smith is still at State, it is what it is. I don't really know what you do. I think the writing's on the wall. I think he's gone either way. I don't know if firing him now makes any difference. And I think South Carolina also fired their offensive coordinator because people weren't too happy with him either.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest with where State's at fundamentally and how many big coaching hires, I don't want to be in that pool trying to bid for a guy. You already overpaid, Tucker when you had to because you didn't want him to leave. Jonathan
still
Smith,
in court, too.
Yeah, which you might have, that could be paid out. We don't know how that's going to fold out or whatever happens there. But, then you had to go try to acquire Smith, and so you gave him a pretty large contract, which at the time seemed like a good decision. And for me, it's like you guys are trying to chase something instead of letting things settle down. And I know it's bad, and I know it's horrible, but, you're going to be the 10th in line for a coach. There's so many better programs, so much more respect, that have way better talent already there, no offense with, how you are now, that, do you want that guy? Do you want the random guy? Or do you want to say, hey, one more year, look, if he's bad again, we gave him 3 seasons, his recruits were this, and then recruit him down from there. Then, hey, next year, there's no way the carousel is going to be as this crazy, and then make that decision maybe next year, especially early on in the season when you have some key games.
Sounds like, too, Franklin might be going to Va Tech, but he's kind of keeping things out for other schools that might open up. Florida State, another one I think I heard for him, so we'll keep an eye on that. But actually, KB, funny enough, when we were looking to hire after we let Mel Tucker situation, a lot of the feelers out there in news was that a lot of people respect State, that it's not a bad place to be. So I understand 1,000% where you're coming from, and can totally, Florida and some bigger schools, I get that. But I think we would be surprised how people might respect Michigan State and what might be out there, what we can do after what Antonio did. I know it's a different era, but maybe there's more respect out there than we think / know. But you never know. I think, I don't really have a short list right now. I would love to have Brian Hartline. I think that, I don't know if that's a stretch or not. I don't know how long Day stays at OSU. But if we could get recruiting back in Ohio like we did with D'Antonio, I mean, that's kind of how we built our teams, was to get, kind of the second tier guys from Ohio. Obviously all around in Great Lakes or in Texas, we had a weird pipeline there, but yeah, I don't know who the guy will be, KB. I just don't think Smith has done enough for the fans and or the big donors for to make it easy on J-Bat his first year at Michigan State as a new AD. So don't really know what will happen, but I just think the writing's kind of on the wall, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's fair. I was just bringing up that point because you're gonna have to overpay, was my point, to get a premier guy. And do you want to always be chasing to overpay a guy? But when you win and you get the right guy like Cignetti, it can completely change your university, your culture, everything like that too. So, right, there's impacts to that stuff too. I was just kind of throwing that out there because maybe what the optics are even now, because he's recruited poorly. At least Tucker recruited some higher end guys, but
I would say too, coaching buyouts need to change because it's like killing. It's going to kill athletic departments having to pay a guy $500,000 for like 3 years. That's just going to kill your, so if we start throwing sponsorships and stuff, that will help. But I mean, there's teams, our buyout's $30 million. Penn State's was like 50, 60. I think there was another one that was higher. I think Jonathan Smith is still top 10 for like ever, but still, it could really put a hamper. Big donors will pay it, but still it could, other sports might get killed per se.
Agents have been making a killing in this new era of making schools sign these horrible deals that puts the coach in such a good position.
Ryan Kelly just made $40 million.
Yeah.
See you guys, but appreciate you.
Yeah. All right. So those are my thoughts on everything wholly encompassing. Excited for a bye week. I'm going to be back home visiting Michigan, so we might do a podcast a little early this week. We'll get it figured out. But appreciate everyone for listening. Week 11 next week. We just wrapped up week 10, so absolutely crazy that the season's flying this fast, Quist. Appreciate everyone who listens. With all of that being said, go Blue.
Yep. KB said it good, said it well as always. We'll try to do something in the upcoming days when he's in town. And another heartbreaker for our Spartans, but we'll keep going and grinding. Thanks as always. Go Green.